sweating.
It is so hot.
It's hot. It's like 95 degrees.
And we don't have AC. Let's turn off this light. It's like making it super hot too. Ugh.
Disappear into the darkness. All right.
Bye. Bye. Welcome to the Gospel of Truth.
I'm Dean.
And I'm Audrey. And this week we are celebrating the 12th Sunday of Ordinary Time.
Yep. 12th Sunday. It's also Father's Day.
And it is almost... Oh, it is Father's Day by the time we post this.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy Father's Day to all the father figures out there in our lives.
Yeah.
This week we are going to focus on this very familiar theme on trust and faith in God.
Yeah.
But before we get into any reflecting, do you want to remind everyone what the Gospel of Truth is about?
Of course. So the Gospel of Truth is all about Audrey and I sharing our thoughts about the faith, the Word, happenings in the church. Hopefully by doing that, we can understand our own faith a little bit better. Maybe you, the viewers, can get something out of it as well.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and dive into the readings. I'm only going to call it the first reading, the Psalm today, and then the Gospel, to match up with the theme of having faith and trust in God.
Yeah.
So in the first reading, we come back to the book of Job. Yeah, poor Job. But it's not a sad story in Job today. It's more God just telling Job, hey, like, look at how powerful I am, right? I have the power to shut doors within the sea and basically tell the sea, chill out.
Yeah.
That's going to come back a little bit later on. But that's what God's basically saying. It's like, look, I have that power. Like, do you not know that this is me? Like, I can do all of these things. And so he's just telling Job that this is who he is.
Yep.
In the psalm, we see that we are asked to give thanks to the Lord. His love is everlasting. And it just talks about all of the things that God is capable of doing. And that, we should be thankful and we should rejoice for all the things that God does for us and the miracles that he performs for us. And then when we move to the gospel, we see here from the Gospel of Mark that famous story of the apostles taking a boat out to sea.
Yeah. And there's a storm or something, right?
Yeah. And all the apostles are just tripping out. They're like, yo, like, this is it. Right?
This is the end.
This is
the boat is filling with water.
And then for whatever reason, Jesus is just chilling. Like, he's actually asleep, right? Jesus is in the stern, asleep on a cushion.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jesus, like, don't you care? Like, teacher, do you not care? We are perishing? And then Jesus is like, oh. And then so he woke up, and then he said, quiet, be still. And then the sea became still. And one of the most powerful words in this gospel is Jesus saying, why are you terrified? Do you not yet have faith? Right? Like, I love that, where she's just like, you know what? Like, if you had only had faith, you might not have been so scared and so worried. And it just goes to show that God is there for us. God will be there for us. Jesus will be there for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Really, really obvious themes, I think.
I would say so, yeah.
In the responsorial psalm today. And it's obviously to trust in God, right? He will be there for us in times of distress in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I remember last year when we were going through that really tough time when your dad had just passed, and we prayed a lot and we sort of relied a lot on God to sort of guide us through that really tumultuous time in our lives, and sort of looked to him for guidance, asked questions, and kind of prayed to him. But he was there for us in the sense that he sort of gave us comfort. Right.
Yeah, and it's kind of fitting, I guess, bringing up my dad. It's almost Father's Day.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, like, it was the most distressful time of our lives thus far, and though I don't know, there's something to be said about, like, we as humans, we think we have an idea of what God's plan is, and we get really upset when things don't go our way. But I think it's important for us to take just kind of approach it with a different lens, right? So though things didn't work out in the way we had thought it would, but like, we should remember that, God has this plan for us that we can never truly ever imagine what it is and how he will, like, execute upon it.
Exactly.
Right? And so, though again, I know we've brought up my dad's story a couple of times, but then though again, he did pass away from cancer, and we did get the miracle we wanted. I mean, there's a lot that came of it still, and a lot of comfort that I think our faith and God was able to provide for us through such a difficult time in our lives.
And so it's important, right, to understand that comfort can come from God but as you said, not always in the way that you expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point to make, in the sense that sometimes people can look at this and say, well, God is always going to take care of me and God is going to protect me, and use it as sort of an excuse to behave recklessly.
Yeah, and I think it's true. God will always protect us, but again, not in the way, like, there's no way we can ever, like, foresee or, like, know exactly what his plan is, right?
Exactly. Like, we can't be so arrogant as to assume that God is going to protect us in this specific way, so it's okay for me to behave, like a fool, or act like a fool.
Very recklessly, right? And I mean, remember back in, is it around Lent, where he goes to the desert, 40 days in the desert, and there's something, we were just talking about it earlier, right? Like the takeaway, one of the takeaways there were like, don't put God to the test.
Yeah, like when Jesus is tempted by Satan, he's basically saying, yeah, jump, like, throw yourself off the roof. God's angels will attend to you.
Yeah.
And, like, Satan's trying to throw scripture at Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus doesn't know scripture. But Jesus is like, no, but you're not supposed to put God to the test.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, like, I think it's a great opportunity to call back on that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a very good example of, like, what we shouldn't be doing. And that, we shouldn't put God to the test, but rather just look to him for comfort and peace in times of distress. He will always be there for us and look out for us and have our best interests in mind, knowing what our plan is. And he's the only one who knows what that plan is.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And so I think that's a great little summary of what we talked about, is that we can just take comfort in God and have faith in him. Yeah,
and maybe it's more about, like, have faith in his plan for us. Mm-hmm. Versus, like, the little, like, micro moments we have where we're like, hey, like, why am I sick? Or, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have faith in God's plan for us, and that, and just remember to remain humble and don't be foolish with knowing that he will be here for us, right?
Yeah.
We don't know any better, honestly, as humans.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's always on our side.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I guess that's a good place to wrap it up. Again, we wish all of our father figures in our lives a very happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Thank you for all that you do in leading our families and supporting us. And we look forward to chatting with all of you next week.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.